Today we're looking at HealthyGamerGG, what makes porn so dangerous. Quickly, this guy is a professional PhD Stanford doctor big boy, and I'm just a young dude. And yet, this guy is completely wrong about PMO addiction. It doesn't exist. You're just choosing to use PMO every single time. The stuff he says about dopamine is completely wrong, and the stuff that I learned in the Freedom Model for Addictions, which is a free book that I'll link below, is actually the correct way to go about beating the PMO problem. What he's teaching you is going to make things worse, and I'm going to respond to this video and basically explain in each step the myths that he's talking about, which are very, very common, and we're just going to debunk those, and I'm going to give you logical arguments as to explain as to essentially why the Freedom Model view is correct and why this guy's view is wrong. Now, I'm sure this guy's a fantastic dude. I'm sure he's a great guy, but I know that his advice is going to be off the mark. So let's go.
Pornography addiction is the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'll ask them, well, what makes you feel that way? Help me understand how you arrived at that conclusion. And he's like, this has really made me realize what I appreciate about life and like how important these things are and like what kind of life I want to live.
First of all, you cannot recover from porn addiction because there is no addiction. The whole concept of addiction as compelled behavior isn't true. You're in control of your behavior at every single moment in time. The reason why you feel these strong urges which don't exist to use PMO is because you really want to use porn. This is such a paradigm shift away from thinking about urges to just thinking about want. The want for porn is the same as the want for green tea. It's the same type of thing. Want, the emotion of want. We want things for various benefits that we see in them. I love this green tea because it's warm. It's quite cold in the UK where I live, and it's nice. It's quite sophisticated. I love how it looks in this clear glass. It looks like I'm drinking piss, actually, now that I mentioned it. That's irrelevant, though. It's disgusting now that I've thought about that. Anyway, my point is that you cannot recover from porn addiction because you don't have an addiction. You're just using porn for perceived benefits. Perceived benefits that you see in porn. When you spend all of your time trying to recover from something that doesn't exist, you're doing that which is impossible. You can't fight something that doesn't exist. Anyway, let's keep going.
How long does it take to beat a porn addiction? I know this might sound a bit too vague, but I would appreciate it a lot if you guys would help me, especially those who have beaten the addiction. Maybe I'm asking too much, but if you guys could potentially give me tips. Okay. So the first thing you've got to understand is that an addiction is not, you can't beat an addiction. So if you even use...
That's true. You can't beat it because it doesn't exist, but I'm not sure that that's what he's going to be talking about.
Use that terminology, right? So this implies that there is an opponent, and once the opponent is vanquished, it is dead forever. I've won, the game is over. That's not how addictions work. So addictions are things that are with you all the time. You never win. You just win the battle today. You can't ever really win the war.
This is completely wrong. Oh my god, this angers me so much. I'm sure that this dude's a great person, but this idea, my guys, it's so toxic. The idea that you're going to be in for a battle for the rest of your life and that you will never win the war is so toxic.
War. I mean, you can. We'll get to that later. But so that's okay. The first thing is that this.
So he contradicts himself.
This is where a biggest mistake that so many people make with pornography addiction is that they try to beat it. And why is that? It's because people are tired of dealing with it. So the desire to beat it comes out of a fantasy of no longer wanting to fight it every day. Working as an addiction psychiatrist, the worst thing that I want is a patient who thinks they have beaten their addiction, because that's when the addiction really trips you up. Your guard is down now that you've won. It is people.
How does addiction even exist? How is it this external thing that's controlling your mind? You control your mind at every single second of every single day based on benefits that you see in stuff. When you get up in the morning, you want to shower, right? That feeling of want, the want to be clean, is the same type of want as the want to PMO. The way you beat a PMO addiction is by realizing you're not addicted and you're using PMO for very rational reasons. It makes me feel good, it makes me escape, blah, blah, blah. The point is, are these benefits really in PMO or are they self-given? Can you get these benefits in other ways? Is abstinence going to be happier for you because there are greater benefits in abstinence. You have to want abstinence. There's no such thing as beating an addiction, because there is no addiction. You just want differently. I brought up this example in my last video where, like, when I was younger, I was choosing between different subjects: chemical engineering, physics, maths, economics, computer science. I didn't know which one to choose when I was 16, and I cycled through every few months. I would change my want. I wanted chemical engineering this month. Maybe 3 months later I wanted to do economics or whatever, because in my mind I was mentally changing my mind based on what do the universities require, which subjects am I going to do well in, what do I want to do as a future career, how much does this job pay, all of these thoughts. That was influencing my decision making. The problem with porn addiction is when you're convinced that you have an addiction that you need to fight, you stop thinking about why you're doing it. When you throw the addiction concept out, you begin to think why you're doing it. And then as you rethink the benefits of PMO, using the freedom model, which is linked below, this is the best book ever. You can change your want. You can't beat an addiction, you just choose differently. It's that simple.
Who have
But you have to dismantle myths first. That's the caveat. When you've dismantled all myths and you get to a neutral state where you can genuinely think about what you want and don't want, that is when you're in a position to choose however you wish.
Constant vigilance until certain neuroscientific changes are made. That's really when you can conquer it. But for now, don't try to beat it. Try to resist. So how?
You can't resist what you want. That doesn't make sense. You want certain things. Now, you can want porn or you can want not porn. The idea of resisting your want is it doesn't actually make sense. You can want not porn out of discipline or for some other reasons, and you can want porn because it feels good now. Or you can change your want and want abstinence because abstinence feels better now. You ever go to the gym and you have a really good workout and you feel really good? What feels better, going to the gym, having a workout and feels really good, or sitting at home eating cookies? You might say, at first glance, sitting at home eating cookies, but when you really think about it, when you make that decision to go to the gym, you want to go to the gym. You want to go to the gym. You want to make gains. You want to feel good. You want to be in that environment. You're up for it. Now, on some days you might not be as up for it as others, but that's what I'm saying is that you can change that want so that you were always up for it. If you really wanted to, you would go every day. There are gym rats who are in the gym every day, like steroid guys. You see them. They're there all the time because that's what they love to do. You can love to abstain from porn in the same way that gym rats love being in the gym.
How do you do that? How long does it take to beat a porn addiction? So that too depends on how many factors are there that are driving you towards porn and how many factors are driving you away from porn.
Okay, this is quite good. This is getting in towards benefits of using PMO versus benefits of not. Let's see what he has to say about this.
So for example, if you use pornography as a antidote to boredom, as long as you are bored, you will have an interest in pornography.
Very true. That's spot on. Spot on. If you view PMO as an antidote to stress, when you're stressed, you will want porn. That's very true. True.
As long as you use pornography as an emotional regulation technique, as long as your emotions are disturbed, you will lean towards pornography. Hey.
Spot on. I think this is an advert now.
Y'all, if you're interested in applying some of the principles that link in the bio, and there's a component of just like the brain emotion.
Let's go back. Sorry,
understand,
guys.
Okay, there's a dopaminergic signal. There's an emotional signal.
There's no dopaminergic signal. That isn't true. That doesn't exist. You can't. That isn't a thing. Despite what he says, it's not true. You won't want something you don't want. You won't want something you see little benefit in compared to the alternative. It's just true.
There's an emotionally suppression signal, and then there's a component of just like the brain is.
If there's let's put it this way. If there is, let's say there's a dopaminergic signal towards PMO, that implies that you want a PMO. You can't want something you see no benefit in on the front end compared to your other options. I will never desire studying hair and beauty at university. I will always desire STEM subjects, right? And that's what I did. I did physics and philosophy because that's what I see benefit in. I see zero benefit in doing makeup and hair. I have no interest in it. I would never choose that. you can think the same way about PMO.
It's like, if we're not doing anything today, let me at least get that hit of dopamine. So really overcoming...
No, that's a reason to use PMO. You're not using it to get the hit of dopamine. You're using it because you want to do it. You're not consciously thinking, I want my dopamine. Now, you might be, but that's still a reason. That's still got nothing to do with dopamine. That's still a reason there's a benefit, a perceived benefit. Your perceived benefit to use PMO might be the elusive dopamine that's in your brain. Is there any evidence that that's why you're doing it? No. The evidence is that you're doing it because you want to, for those reasons. And I know this, and the reason why I'm so strong and so confident on this issue is because when you change your reasons, the want goes. I've experienced this in my own life, which is why I'm able to make this video against this top neuroscientist guy. And I don't feel like an arrogant dickhead for doing it either. I've experienced this shit firsthand.
Pornography addiction is not in addressing the addiction directly, which there is a part of that. It's really in understanding what are all the risk factors that are contributing to the pornography addiction. And that's what we try to do when we do addiction psychiatry. So as the
It's so ironic that this guy is an expert. He's an addiction psychiatrist, and people look at him and he'll be like, wow, he's such an expert. He talks so confidently. He's got this fancy degree. And the book that I'll link in the description is The Real Expert. Don't look at me as though I'm some sort of genius. I'm really not. The book is the fucking genius. The guys who wrote that spent a lot of time writing it, and you can tell it reads. When you read the freedom model, it's like you can tell that this is the product of iterative trial and error over a long time, and then when you do succeed, you look back on the book and you're like, Christ, what a fucking read. I've read the book over 10 times.
Itself, let's use an example of
but I only quit after 3 reads, maybe 4.
Alcohol.
Yeah, something like that.
There's the whole act of not taking a drink, but then there is also what goes into that, which is, okay, let's do psychotherapy to understand why you started drinking in the first place. Let's understand what your triggers are.
You don't have triggers. This is another false concept. You can never be triggered to do something that you don't want to do. You only want to do things based on reasons, based on perceived benefits. This is the truth. If you want something now, anything, you see a reason to do it. There's some kind of benefit that you see in doing it. Now, you might think those benefits are inherent to porn. That's the mistake, thinking that it's guaranteed pleasure, guaranteed emotional relief. These are massive issues, and it's addressed in the freedom model. As I said, link below. You do not need to suffer to get out of this problem, I'm telling you guys. And you can either go listen to this, people great, as I say, great people who are perhaps misinformed. You can listen to people like this, and you can suffer more. And I'm sorry to deliver bad news like this, but you can either listen to these nofap gurus that you've been listening to for years and years, neuroscientists that you've been listening to for years and years, or you can open your mind and try something new. And this is your solution, I'm telling you.
Let's understand all of the alcoholic behavior. And the problem that I see with a lot of people who struggle with pornography addiction is that, first of all, a lot of clinicians don't specialize in it. They don't really understand how it works. And
unfortunately, this guy doesn't understand how it works either, which is, again, I'm not insulting him. Let's assume he's a fantastic individual. This really isn't right, though.
Secondly, they don't fix all of the environment, right? So, for example, a big part of overcoming alcohol...
You don't need to fix the environment. You don't need to do that. You just need to change your internal benefits that you perceive. You don't need to change the environment, because the environment can't make you do stuff. Only you can make you do stuff. And you do stuff in accordance with the reason you see in doing it. Your brain isn't broken. You're not a malfunctioned human. You're functioning completely normally. It's just that your programming is not right. So you don't have a hardware problem in your brain. What you have is a software problem. And this is great news, because software can be reprogrammed, right? Hardware is fixed. So I'm delivering great news.
Alcohol addiction is changing your community. So if you go hang out with your friends who go to the bar, or you go hang out with your friends who are part of a frat, you're going to drink.
I used to drink in university a lot. And here's the difference, right? When you go to a bar and your friends are like, do you want a drink? Whatever. I might have a drink, but that's because I'm deciding to. Because I see reason to. If I see no reason to do so, if I know that alcohol isn't going to make my experience any better, if I don't think it's going to make me fit in, or I just don't care about it. And if I just prefer being sober, that's what I'll choose. It's the same with porn, but people think it's entirely different because it hijacks your brain, because it's a supernormal stimulus, because of the Coolidge effect, because of dopamine circuits, because of this, because of that. Believe me, guys, I know every single trick in the fucking book. I was there for years. And this is what's helped me quit, which is why I'm stressing it so much.
So you have to find new friends. But what's the community of pornography? The community of pornography is loneliness. So it's very difficult. You can tell an alcoholic not to go to a bar. It is far harder to tell a pornography addict to no longer be lonely. This
isn't true. Like, okay, there's a massive difference here, right? So you can be lonely and not feel the want to use porn if you do not see porn as a solution to loneliness. And you won't see porn as a solution to loneliness when you realize it isn't one. And you realize it isn't one by reading the Freedom Model, particularly chapters 17, 18, 19, and 20. But in order to, don't skip to those chapters, read the first half of the book first, otherwise you're going to be completely lost. You've got to, read it sequentially, and then afterwards you can go back. When you no longer see PMO as a solution to loneliness, you won't desire it for that reason. It's all about what you see as solutions, not about the environment. He thinks that the environment and external things cause you to use porn. Nothing causes you to use porn. You reason that porn is a good idea for this reason, for that reason, for that reason. The point is that these reasons that you might have may not be accurate. And in fact, most of them won't be. If you find yourself heavily using PMO, you're in a position where you believe that PMO is giving you benefits when it simply isn't. And those benefits are just mental placebos. And then, when you understand that, you can then begin to find the same benefits in other things. And you realize, hey, I'm a lot happier doing it this way. And you're getting your benefits of PMO without the PMO. I'm insinuating a lot here, and I'm painting a future for you here, because this is going to give you an idea as to what's to come. But start at the beginning of the Freedom Model and read the whole way through. Okay?
This is why pornography addiction is skyrocketing. Sure, things are getting more.
No, the reason why pornography addiction is skyrocketing is because NoFap is getting bigger, and because videos like this have so many views. Look, 150,000 views in 16 hours. So he's purporting a lot of, unknowingly he's purporting a lot of toxic ideas.
Or into this.
And when you buy into these ideas, now you have a problem, because now you believe that you're going to be motivated to PMO, and you don't take into consideration your own faculty of reason.
Supernormal stimulus.
And you're holding in myths. He said supernormal stimulus. Let's look at this. Supernormal stimulus, again, is a massive myth.
This is why pornography addiction is skyrocketing. Sure, things are getting more into the supernormal stimulus realm, but really it's that what's the community of pornography?
Supernormal stimulus implies that you're going to use it. You're going to be compelled to use it against your own will. That isn't true.
It's loneliness. And so when I really see good outcomes with people who overcome pornography addiction, they have more.
I would be surprised if he has a success rate of above 5%. I would be so shocked if he has actually. There's no way he has a good success rate. And this isn't me insulting him at all. I just know that these ideas are so toxic that if you're believing in them and you're convinced by an authority figure, man, it's going to be so hard to get out.
Meaning in their lives, and they have more community. But that's very difficult to do. So what is the bar of pornography? Right? So the bar is the physical location that you go to drink. Where do you watch pornography, and where do you masturbate? Usually at home, right? Those of the people that don't do it at home are the ones who wind up on sex offender registries, wind up in jail, those kinds of things. And so how do you get away from your house? This is why pornography addiction is so bad today. Ease of access, ubiquitous, super.
You won't want to do something that you don't want to do. And that sounds trivial, but I could spend all day in my house, but I won't PMO because I don't want to do it, because I see massive benefit in not doing it, and I see little benefit in doing it. That's the truth. But you need to get to this stage by undoing all the addiction myths, undoing the unrealistic value myths that you see in your mind to use PMO, and then you're just in a position where you literally, in my head, it's like, okay, benefits of PMO, I feel much better about myself, I have better erections and better sex with the girl that I'm seeing. I feel just more confident, more secure, I've got more time, I have more peace of mind. Whereas benefits of PMO, I don't really see any. I think it's quite gross now. It doesn't really give, it's finished now, you know? It's like finished. It's kind of like when you stop playing video games, you kind of grow out of it. You're like, it's kind of finished, you know? That stage is kind of, that chapter's over. This is what moving on is. And, yeah. You don't need to, like, get away from your bedroom. Because this is an internal process of change, and not an external.
Supernormal stimulus, emotionally unregulated population. So at what we're
He's putting the blame on emotionally unregulated population, the loneliness and the environment, right? This implies that the environment that factors in you can cause you to PMO. It can't happen. Only you can reason to PMO based on perceived benefits. Do you see the difference? Nothing can cause you to PMO. I can cause this laptop to fall. Look, I'm going to do it carefully. Right? I dropped it. I had no other object to drop, so I had to use the laptop. It was either the laptop or the tea, which I'd rather use the laptop. I caused the laptop to fall because I dropped it and gravity pulled it down. Nothing can cause you to use PMO. Only you can reason in your mind that PMO is a good idea. And your reasoning is based on these myths that you've believed in, which is why it seems so hard to get out.
we're doing is our brains, we're getting worse and worse at emotional regulation. You see this with all the Karens on the internet. You see it with people posting all this toxic stuff, this misogyny and all this kind of stuff. Every corner of the internet is filled with just negative emotion. And then you have safe spaces that are just venting, just vomiting all of this negative emotion constantly. And so the world is becoming more emotionally dysregulated. And so what is our silver bullet? What is the brain's silver bullet when it comes to emotional regulation? Pornography. It's not.
He's implying that porn is a genuine solution to emotions, which is absolutely ludicrous. It doesn't do that. All PMO is the physical buzz of MO, and then you getting distracted by a screen and feeling sexual arousal. That's it. You're just feeling sexual arousal. All the other stuff that you think it's doing for you, it simply isn't. But you need to come to that conclusion on your own, and you can do that by reading the freedom model all the way through.
Not a controlled substance.
It's not. It doesn't work. You might feel like it works, but that's because you're mentally relaxing and giving yourself a time off. It doesn't actually solve emotional problems, and making it appear as though it can solve emotional problems is completely missing the point.
So I don't have to get someone to prescribe it for me. It's not illegal, so I don't have to hang out with a drug dealer. It doesn't cost.
He's making PMO sound like a genuine drug that can a silver bullet. He used the word silver bullet, and believe me, it does feel like a silver bullet. You do feel genuine emotional relief when you use PMO, but it's not coming from the PMO. It's coming from your own mind, and you can do that with anything. I can do it with green tea. Ready? That's my mini vacation. Don't need porn for it. Because I understand that porn isn't doing it. I'm doing it, so I can do it without it. When you think that porn is doing it, good luck trying to replace a silver bullet.
Cost me my rent, usually. There's a whole other aspect of OnlyFans and parasocial relationships that we're not going to get into. So imagine if heroin was freely available on the internet and you don't have to pay for it, right? What would use be like? Just everyone had all the equipment in their own homes. So
ironically, the Freedom Model guys give this statistic out. There are so many opiate painkiller drugs that are given out by the American healthcare system to people, prescribed by the American healthcare system. And I think 2 million people have excess painkillers in their drawer. So how does that work? That you know what I mean? A lot of people do not want to keep taking their painkillers, and they don't begin to use that for emotional relief. Bearing in mind everyone has emotional problems. If it genuinely worked as a medication, they would keep taking it, but they don't. There's an excess in their drawer. I can't remember the statistic. I wish I did, but you can look it up. Basically, people leave. People don't use their painkillers because the painkillers don't relieve emotional pain. They don't see it that way.
If you look at any addictive substance, it gives pleasure and it takes away pain.
So fucking false. So false. That's absolutely false.
And porn does that very well.
Perceived porn does it very well. No, it doesn't. It can't take away pain. It's distraction. The reason why addictive things are distractive. The reason why so-called addictive substances are quote unquote addictive is because they have distractive value. And so people begin to distract themselves with the thing, therefore taking away their emotional pain. But then they blame the substance and they think the substance is magically taking away the pain for them. It's not the case. When people make that misattribution error, they think the substance is taking away the pain for them. Now they inflate the value of the substance so highly that they now desire it massively and they keep going back to it. And then you put the lock on and you say, oh, they're addicted, now they're fucked. The freedom model is undoing that lock and then realizing that, hang on, I'm the one who's in control of my emotions. I'm the one who's distracting myself with something or giving myself permission to relax. I could do that with anything. There's nothing unique about any of these substances. I could pick my substance of choice to relax. Mine, personally, I'm loving my evening walks at the minute. My evening walks are so good. I feel so relaxed. I take a walk and I breathe in the fresh air and it feels good, man. That's my thing. That gives me better emotional relief than PMO.
Well, right? Porn is the one addiction that accesses the one part of our brain, not the one part of our brain, the one function that accesses all parts of our brain. I'll give you all an example of this. Neuroanatomy and function of human sexual behavior, a neglected or known issue. So I was trying to figure out, I tried to look at like, okay, what part of the brain does pornography affect? Sexual behavior is regulated by both subcortical structures, such as the hypothalamus, brainstem, spinal cord, and several cortical brain areas, acting as an orchestra to finally adjust this primitive, complex, and versatile behavior. Mwah! Chef's kiss of neuroscience. Okay? Now let's just look. Table 1, summary of the brain areas involved in human sexual behavior. Basically all of them. The reward system. Okay? Like basically your whole brain. Wait, it gets better. Neurotransmitters and modulators. Summary of the main neurotransmitters and modulators involved in regulating human sexual behavior.
Before we go on, I just want to say, I know absolutely nothing about neuroscience, but you don't need to know anything about neuroscience because you have all the information right in your first-hand experience, in your mind. You don't need to know anything about the brain in order to this. Do you think when someone makes a complex decision, such as choosing which subject they want to do for university, they're thinking about, okay, how is my ventral striatum going to fire if I choose chemistry versus... No, people just think using their first-person experience. We do it all the time. And you don't need to know about the brain. You don't need to know anything about the brain in order to make a change, because you make changes all the time in your life without even thinking about the brain. People go to the shops and buy this instead of this. People make decisions all the time. You don't. The brain stuff is actually not relevant. It's actually not relevant because you make decisions in your first person point of view, mentally in your mind. You make the decision, not your brain. In your like, look, I'm doing all of this now of my own volition. Now you can argue that decision's really going on in my brain. Okay, but then why do I need to put the cart before the horse in and think about the brain when I'm making my decision? Why do I need to factor that in when it's not relevant? When it doesn't actually make... Why does that idea need to be factored into my decision making when it's not relevant? Do you understand what I'm saying? Please comment if I am making sense, because you don't need to know about the brain at all. It's actually not relevant, is what I'm saying.
Basically all of them. See, like, for example, when we look at alcohol addiction,
when you make decisions in your first person point of view, you never factor in your brain when you make a decision. It doesn't happen. Like, you don't need to think about it. You can just decide without it.
We literally have pills you can take for alcohol addiction. Things like naltrexone.
Yeah, naltrexone and fuck, I can't remember the other one. Naltrexone was the big one they talk about.
And what naltrexone does is it goes to the area where the alcohol binds to a receptor in your brain and it blocks that binding. So we can literally give you a pill that will block the effect of alcohol in the brain. We also have medications like disulfiram. So
here's the thing though, like, so what they talk about in the freedom model is they show a graph, and these guys are so thorough. Like, they have a graph of where people take naltrexone and when people take a placebo or don't take anything. I can't remember which one it was, but the graph is the same shape. So the naltrexone actually doesn't... the naltrexone stops the effect of alcohol in your brain, but it doesn't affect your mental want, the ideas as to why you want to drink. Does that make sense? If your decision making is determined by benefits that you see in stuff, for example with my green tea, for example with PMO, with alcohol, if you take a pill that stops the effect of it on your brain, that doesn't change the ideas that you're holding in your mind about why you want to do stuff.
Disulfiram is a devious medication. When we drink alcohol, there are two steps in the metabolism of alcohol. I think we turn it first into an acetaldehyde or something like that, and then we turn it into whatever the final product is. So the interesting thing is that alcohol, that middle step, so it gets turned in from A to B and B to C, okay? A is okay, C is okay. But B is toxic as fuck. So we give a medication that blocks the conversion from B to C. And then this metabolite builds up and makes people violently ill. So if you take your disulfiram pill and you drink alcohol, you will be violently ill. So that we can do this when it comes to a substance.
So this is coercive. This is like saying, don't watch PMO, otherwise you get PIED, and scaring yourself of that. It's a path to misery. Wouldn't you just rather not want to PMO? Which is possible. I've done it.
We can like literally give you a pill that will make you ill if you drink alcohol. But when it comes to pornography, it affects the whole brain, all of the neurotransmitter. And so it's hard to like fix it just like this. And that's why the treatment.
You don't need a brain fix, you need a mind fix. Because it's a mental problem, not a physical problem. It's not a mental illness. It's just a mental, logical errors.
Overcoming pornography addiction is so much more holistic, right?
It's not. This is how he's trying to complicate. I mean, not him. Like, again, he's a great dude. But these ideas just complicate the issue.
It involves...
It's not holistic. You don't need to make your life perfect in every way to not jerk off. You can just not want to anymore.
Emotional regulation, finding purpose, finding meaning, hopefully having a healthy...
You can be on a wild goose chase for years doing this pointless shit.
Sexual relationship. And another thing that we understand about pornography is that it's not even about sex. It's not about relationships or lust or anything like that. Many of the people I've worked with pornography addiction, I don't know about the majority, usually get exposed to pornography pre-puberty. So even before their brain knows, they're not aroused by it at all. They get this supranormal stimulus in their development.
Supranormal stimulus, not supernormal. It's also not a supranormal stimulus at all.
Developing brain.
That isn't a thing. Like, if it's a thing, like cheeseburgers are supernormal stimulus, or Doritos are, and you can argue PMO is, but he's making a logical leap into saying, oh, because it's a supernormal stimulus, that makes it addictive. No, it doesn't. Therefore, the supernormal thing isn't actually relevant. It's just not, it isn't relevant.
Which then shapes their brain to be vulnerable to pornography later in life. And we know, for example, that marijuana is a gateway drug. Why is it a gateway drug? Because it alters the parts of our brain that then...
No, when you try marijuana, you think to yourself, hey, that wasn't bad, I didn't die. That felt quite good. Maybe cocaine won't be so bad. Maybe everyone's wrong about, maybe if I just do it once, it'll be fine. I was fine with marijuana, so that's how it works. That's how it worked for me.
And become more vulnerable to addiction.
You're not vulnerable to addiction, you're just making a choice. You're like, fuck man, I've smoked a cigarette, I'm drunk. Alcohol, I've smoked weed. Someone offers me a line of coke. What the fuck? Why not?
So
I'm young.
Alters the...
I want to be a bit naughty.
Structure of our reward circuitry. And once you alter the structure of your reward circuitry, now...
This is so overcomplicating it. Like, this isn't even... Like, he's creating a neuroscience explanation for stuff, and you can't prove him wrong because none of us are neuroscientists, but you can prove him wrong not by arguing with him on a neuroscience level, but arguing with him on a mind level. Mentally, you can choose not to use porn if you see sufficient reason to do so. And the way you see sufficient reason to do so is by not believing you're addicted, getting rid of the myths about the magical powers of PMO and what it can do for you. And then once you realise it can't really do much for you, you begin to just naturally quit because you begin to see massive benefit in not using it. And then you make that change and you make that decision and you stop doing it. And you're happy for not doing it. You're happier not doing it than you are doing it.
Now you can have a huge vulnerability to addiction, which is what we see in marijuana in developing brains. And so with...
You can't be vulnerable to addiction. It doesn't make sense. It's not even a thing. Despite, like, when you really think about this stuff and you read the Freedom One, you start to realise this is all bullshit. That's why it's so confusing, because it's not true.
Pornography, this is what tends to happen. I've noticed that the younger you are when you get exposed to pornography, it appears that the higher the risk is, although I don't have data to back that.
There's no risk, because you're reasoning to... Each of us is an autonomous creature that does things for various things that we see, various reasons we see in doing stuff. There's no risk. Making it sound like a risk is like saying, oh, there's a risk of like something physical happening. We're talking about human beings here. We have volition.
That up. That's just clinical practice. Taber Nusel is saying, I feel like I'm doomed. Okay, so here's the thing to understand. You're not doomed.
If you listen to this advice, you will feel like you're doomed. Because what he's basically saying is like, okay, you can never win the war. You have to live a perfect life, otherwise you're going to relapse. You can just resist every single day, and that's going to lead to a life of misery. I was there for 6 years in this trap, doing these gimmicks, listening to neuroscientists. Guys, if you're in this trap and you feel doomed, please read the Freedom Model. You can get undoomed and you'll be free of this shit forever.
Doomed. But fixing a pornography addiction, in my opinion, for a fair number of people, okay, so this isn't an absolute, involves fixing your life. So in a sense, it is...
No, it doesn't. My life's the same, roughly, now, when I quit PMO, as before when I was using it a lot. Like, nothing much has changed. In terms of my environment, in terms of my stress levels. I was really stressed before, but now I didn't use PMO because I didn't want to.
Solvable.
And this is the loneliest I've been in my life, because I quit university and I've come home, and I don't have as many friends at home as I have where I'm at uni, because all my friends have gone and lived in London and everything. I've stayed at home trying to build a business online, and at uni I had loads of friends. At home I don't have as many friends. I had a lot more girls at university. I don't have as many girls here. I'm more lonely here. This is like the loneliest I've been in like years. I'm not too fussed about it though, but I don't PMO, so loneliness isn't the cause, stress isn't the cause, like, I just choose not to do it.
And some people get
because I don't want to do it, because I'm happier not doing it.
Really upset by that. They're like, I have to fix my whole life. Like, sort of, yeah.
Sort of, no, you don't have to do that. I didn't do that. I did the opposite. I'm extremely stressed. Like, I'm less stressed now. I was extremely stressed, and I'm pretty fucking lonely because I don't have as many friends in the city that I live in now compared to university. At university, my life was popping, man. I used to scoot around on the scooters, like, there was like girls, there was smart girls, I had like smart, like cool friends. Had a great time. I was eating at restaurants, going out to nightclubs, like socializing. It was actually really fun, and it was like the big city, like it was sick. Now I live in a shithole, and I'm trying to hustle. This is like my hustle phase, hustle saga. So I feel lonely as fuck, man. Sucks.
Flip side, fixing pornography addiction as your main quest in life will necessitate that all of the things that everybody else is doing as a main quest become side quests. Now they become boxes to check that you need to do in order to fix the pornography addiction.
This is so fucking retarded. But I understand where he's coming from. I understand that his perspective is very typical, it's very common, but it's so damaging. Ugh.
Meaning, find purpose, build a career, get physically healthy, go to the gym.
I did all of those things and I was still locked in.
So as you chase this insurmountable goal, every other part of your life will fall in order, because that's what it takes to overcome. And so it's actually like really interesting, because I've seen people with pornography addiction, the process of overcoming their addiction means that they square away every corner of their life. There's also a karmic...
It's not true. It just isn't true, is it? Because you stop PMOing when you want to stop, and you want to stop based on perceived benefits. It has nothing to do with your life. Like, you could have a perfect life if you believe you need PMO to relieve stress. When you're stressed, you want a PMO.
Perspective that sometimes I've had discussions with my patients about, because I'll ask them about this kind of stuff, right? Because it's about meaning. So why do you think you were given this addiction? And they'll kind of say that until I really fix...
Being a patient of one of these neuroscientists I could imagine it's hell on earth.
Every corner of my life, like...
Not because of the people themselves, they're fantastic people, but because of the ideas, man. Being pounded with toxic ideas. It's like really, really hopeless.
It always came back. It was a signal to me from the universe that I'm not living my life in the right way. And then once I started living my life the right way, the pornography addiction got fixed.
You want to use porn because of reasons. How can it just get fixed? How can it just automatically get fixed? You're treating a human being like they're some kind of object that can be molded and melded to your own conditions. You can't just... That isn't how people work.
Literally, these are my patients' words.
People have reasons for doing stuff. You can't just cause people to change behavior. People have volition.
Not mine. And then even if I did it 80%, I would relapse. So I needed to really give it 100%. And then they'll tell me the weirdest thing.
I'm so lonely, Mush. I'm in this city, like, it's a very working class city. There's not really many people who I jive with. two of my close friends live nearby, but they're not that close. Like, they're not that near to me. There's not really much to do here. Like, my social life absolutely blows, but I'm willing to do that because I'm trying to hustle. I'm taking a bit of an L, but it's not causing me to PMO.
Pornography addiction is the best thing that ever happened to me. And now I understand this and I'll ask them, well, what makes you feel that way? Help me understand how you arrived at that conclusion. And he's like, this has really made me realize what I appreciate about life and like how important these things are and like what kind of life I want to live, right? There's all this dopaminergic emotional regulation crap, which is a false life. It's not a real life. It's an empty life. And then in the process of getting rid of that, I've had to build relationships. I've had to be comfortable in my body. I've had to do all kinds of other things, right? So we have a guide, someone saying that this reminds me of my trauma. So this is a huge perspective that's very important for trauma. We've done lectures and stuff on post-traumatic growth, which y'all can check out.
I think a lot of these this is a separate topic. I think a lot of these neuroscience, psychological topics, these like new ideas, new concepts, I think a lot of it is just straight up not true. But that's my inclination. I don't have any evidence for that, but I have evidence that all of the stuff he's saying about PMO, everything I've said in this video about PMO, I will 100% back with, because it's true. Read the Freedom Model.
We have a guide coming up. I guess I'm spoiling it, sort of. So I just finished filming a guide where we dig into all this kind of more spiritual stuff.
Uber toxic advice, guys. Uber toxic. You believe any of this shit, man? Fucking hell. Oh, I was believing in this stuff for so long. It made my life so miserable. So hopeless, so fucking hopeless. Man, it was bad. It was bad. Really bad. Really bad. Really, really awfully bad. That's why I'm motivated to help you motherfuckers out. And I'm a small channel at the moment, but I'm hoping we can get the word out. So like this video if you liked it. Share it to any of your fucking homies. And subscribe, because we're going to fucking upload more of this shit. We need to help these people that are in the same hopelessly bad, fucking bad position, dude. When you believe in this stuff, it's so fucking fucked. Ugh. 140,000 views, 140,000 souls. Let's do this, guys. Seriously, make a channel. Let's fucking blow this up. We need to save the fucking world.